Something often overlooked by the majority of moviegoers is how the movies they watch are rated. It's often only noticed as a superficial to the alphabetical rating they are given. G, PG, PG-13, R, and rarely NC-17 are the things noticed in movie trailers and at the start of movies. Since the last few decades, this rating system has been given a dramatic facelift to the restrictions placed on said movies, and all thanks to the Motion Picture Association of America. It'd be important to mention the foundations in which the MPAA is built upon. The MPAA was founded in 1922 as a trade association of movie companies. This helped keep the movie industry, Hollywood specifically, financially stable. In the MPAA's inception, it was also intended to enact specific moral guidelines that would follow through for almost a century. Some uncommon knowledge is that the MPAA in itself may have started as a solo organization, but today has grown to the power of all of Hollywood's largest production companies behind it. This includes Disney Pictures, Paramount Pictures, 20th Century Fox, Universal Pictures, and Warner Brothers. The chairman and CEO of the MPAA today is Christopher Dodd, who leads the MPAA in their Washington, D.C. headquarters. Dodd is a former United States Senator from Connecticut for the last 30 years, before he was inquired to join the MPAA. Dodd now works for more modern efforts to enforce anti-piracy along with other D.C. lobbyists. The MPAA screen seen on every major motion picture around the United States will have one of five ratings. The first and most docile is the G-rated films gauged toward a general audience, all ages being admitted. A G-rated film contains nothing in theme, language, nudity, sex, violence, etc., which would, in the view of the rating board, be offensive to parents whose younger children could view the film. The G rating is not a certificate of approval, nor does it signify that the film being rated is a children's film. Most expressions and conversations in G-rated movies are polite and do not stray away from those polite conversations. No curse words are present in G-rated films, along with drug use being out of the question. The highest rated and most grossing of the G-rated films include The Lion King, Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo, and Monsters, Inc., just to name a few of the best. PG movies are also movies geared towards small children. But as the name states in itself, parental guidance is suggested and some material may not be suitable for children. The PG rating serves as a warning to parents that the plot may be suggestive in nature and may have some violence or profanity, but not of the most serious degree. PG movies are often the highest disputed movies for their rating because children, there is a gray area where they are at an impressionable age and it is questionable to which what they should be watching. For that reason, PG ratings are some of the most common movies geared towards kids and young adults. The highest grossing of these films of all time include Frozen, Despicable Me, The Lego Movie, Star Wars The Phantom Menace, and Shrek 2. As restrictions are lessened, the age requirement rises. The PG-13 movies may have had the largest facelift by what is allowed by the MPAA to date out of all ratings tiers. In the 80s to 90s, if you were to buy a PG movie, then rated M, it was most likely a gamble. Nudity, cursing, and a strong sexual content were just some of the mixed bag of attributes you could find in a PG movie at the time. Thus, the PG-13 category was created. Today, PG-13 movies give a more stern warning to weary parents in regards to letting their kids watch these films. PG-13 films include attributes such as suggestive themes, violence, some drug use, and sexual content. On an interesting note, PG-13 films are allowed to use one expletive before it is considered an R-rated movie. PG-13 movies place a larger burden on the heads of American parents, more than they have ever before. It is ultimately up to parents to decide if their children can see a PG-13 movie based on what the content board of film possesses. This gray area may be upsetting to some who want a more straightforward approach to rating and more strict guidelines in terms of child-related movies. But the MPAA must also recognize the movie producers and allow them to have freedoms as well. Some of the highest grossing movies at this rating include Avatar, Titanic, The Avengers, The Dark Knight, and The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Restricted movies. Movies which require a guardian or adult if under the age of 17 are ironically most movies geared toward teenagers. Movie studios know their demographics and will market these explicit movies and horror films toward children to drive business. Movies that often garnish the R rating are given so because of sexually explicit material, nudity, drug abuse, tough violence, and most common a combination of those listed. Parents are advised to take this rating very seriously and contemplate what is considered off limits for their children. R-rated titles that have been the highest grossing include Passion of the Christ, The Matrix Reloaded, The Hangover, Beverly Hills Cop, and Ted. Last and arguably the most heinous of the five movie tiers are the movies rated with the NC-17 rating. this meaning that no people under the age of 17 are to be admitted. This rating declares that the rating board believes that this is a film that most parents will consider too obscene for their children. No children will be admitted, meaning exactly what the rating board intended. NC-17 does not necessarily mean obscene or pornographic in the oft accepted or legal meaning of those words. The board does not and cannot mark films with such words. The reasons for applications of the NC-17 rating would be violence, sex, drug abuse, or any other element in which, when present, most parents would consider too strong and therefore off limits by viewing for their children. Some of the highest grossing NC-17 movies are some of the least popular and least common, most likely due to the NC-17 rating giving them a negative connotation of the film and eliminating any otherwise moviegoers that would have seen the movie that are younger than 17. These movies include Showgirls, Henry and June, Bad Education, and Shame. Like stated previously, the MPAA's only job isn't just to rate movies and ship them off to theaters. Within the last decade, the MPAA has been one of the frontrunners in anti-piracy. For those who aren't familiar, piracy is the illegal practice of gaining a certain material protected by the law. In this case, it is film. The MPAA has been lobbying behind many of the latest anti-piracy bills put into Congress, including SOPA and PIPA. Both bills would prevent many freedoms that are accessible on the internet today, and both have been killed on the congressional floor through a massive uproar by the people of the United States, most likely due to the fact that these bills infringe on basic First Amendment rights. The MPAA has serious warnings placed in all movies by the FBI, warning those who intend to bootleg movies that there are serious ramifications to follow. In 2004, the MPAA released an anti-piracy ad that told moviegoers that they wouldn't steal a car, so why should they steal a movie? Many found this advertisement ridiculous, and some television shows even made fun of it.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
The MPAA in all does much more than put ratings on a screen before a movie. They regulate an entire $16.7 billion movie industry that grows by the day, with over 108,000 businesses contributing. The MPAA ensures that production companies are allowed the freedom of speech and allows them to create what they want. But on the other hand, they rate these movies accordingly with no bias or agenda. The only agenda that they are behind is that of stopping online piracy, which is understandable, considering on average the United States movie industry loses more than $6.1 billion a year to piracy, according to LEK Consulting, a number that has been increasing dramatically over the last few years. So the next time you sit in the front row of a movie theater as your shoes stick to the floor with your neck arched at a 75-degree angle, remember this. The MPAA has regulated every major motion picture you have seen in your entire life, and will continue to do so until well after we are all gone. And that is a very hefty responsibility.